All right, welcome to the Creative Permission Slip. I am your host, Amy Carlson, and today I am joined by my good friend, Naxolo, and we are going to, what we think we are going to talk about, actually, we'll see where it goes, about the permission to rewrite your story with creativity. So, welcome, my friend. I love this friendship. We have been friends, I'm not even sure how many years now, but this is a nod to technology. We met, maybe it was 2021, through a program online that we were both participating in. We continued our connection and actually did yoga together online for like a year and a half, and then have continued this friendship across the world because you are in South Africa.
Yes.
Yes, welcome, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be in conversation with you.
So, if you are watching the video version of this episode, you will notice that Nakolo has this beautiful color on. And to describe it, how would you describe it for our listeners that are on audio only?
It's like a cerise pink. It's,
Mm,
it's really bright. It's actually one of my favorite colors. I love pink. Talking about permission, when I first started in the color work, I wasn't allowed to wear pink, allowed in inverted commas, because pink was believed to be one of those colors that don't harmonize with me. And
mm.
yet, and then I got additional colors to my palette, which included this pink, and it has made me so happy. This is one of my favorite colors that really brings a lot of joy to my life. And so I'm very excited that I get to fill my life with different shades of pink, which harmonize with my essence.
Ooh, ooh, okay. I love those words. Harmonize with your essence. And such a permission slip to so we're speaking of color right now, but this could pertain to something else. If you are guided in whatever way, if you have your colors professionally done, or maybe you've heard from someone that like, oh, that color doesn't work for you, and yet something in you says, wait a minute, like different, right? And that sounds like that was part of your journey. So it's like permission to explore, permission to follow that inner guidance.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And giving yourself permission as well to have the things that you desire. In this case, it was just adding an additional color to my palette, but this color's made all the difference because of how much joy it brings me. And whenever I wear this color, people are always so complimentary. They're like, that color looks amazing on you. You look really great. And
Mm.
so that is just, even though I don't need the affirmation, but it's so beautiful to receive that outside mirroring and validation that, this color does in fact bring me forward and really harmonize with me.
Yes, yes. And then I feel like when other people notice um, that interaction between a relationship between ourselves and a color, and then when they mirror that back to you, it's also like a permission, possibly a permission for them to explore color more or wear that color that is maybe they're attracted to, but it feels a little over the top. It feels like maybe something they haven't really allowed themselves. Um, so that sometimes when we give ourselves permission, we're also giving others around us permission to express.
No, absolutely. I'm in in a corporate environment in a sense because I'm in higher education and my university is very conservative and there've been so many times where I'm like, oh, I should possibly, tone it down and not wear my bright colors to work. But I feel most alive when I wear them. And so continually giving myself that permission to show up as my truest self in the colors that make me feel, more connected to myself and more alive.
Mm,
Um, Even though it's that fight between what is deemed professional,
yeah,
and what is deemed, creative
absolutely.
or too much.
Yes. Oh, this is such a juicy conversation because I know that everyone can relate in one way or another. Um, and so what Naxolo and I are talking about is if you've ever had your colors professionally done, they'll give you this, it might look different, but they might give you like a fan of when you think of even going to a paint store, you can get this variety of colors. And so what happens is your skin tone and your hair color and your eye color and all of these things are kind of factored in. And then you are presented with this palette of colors that would appear from this other person's perspective or from this other I know there's different kind of schools of ways of going about this. So, that is one thing to remember is that it is filtered through another's perspective. And so you, by all means, if you ever get your colors done or you've had them done, you have permission to feel into each one of those colors and see and feel, like, does this really resonate with me? And maybe it's close, but maybe it's just a shade off. And so to get to play with that, can you express, like maybe how you've other ways that you've played with your palette?
Um, well, not intentionally, actually. I haven't played with my palette intentionally, but I had started looking at how I feel when I like enter a store and I see something.
Mm,
So my first feeling would be like, oh, that is a really gorgeous dress. Oh, I really love that shirt. So I would go with that.
mhm.
Then my second thing would be like, is it in my palette? I mean, I don't know if it's in my palette, but let's come closer. And then, it might be a shade in between, but it will still harmonize because I would still feel that connection to the color. And yet sometimes I'd walk and I'd see a beautiful dress and I'd be like, oh, ooh, this dress is so nice, but oh no, this is not the dress for me because there'd be something in the color scheme that'd be really repelling to me.
Okay.
And so I guess that's a way that I had unintentionally started playing with it. And just to go back to something that you said earlier about trusting your inner knowing and your inner guidance.
Yeah.
And that's what I started doing without knowing that this is what I was doing.
Yeah.
But my other test was, when I put on this skirt or when I put on this dress, how do I feel? Do I feel like myself or
Mm,
do I feel like not myself? And
yeah.
that has been a really good test as well in the playing. And then just also allowing myself to have fun. So my rule now is if I don't absolutely love it, then I don't get to wear it. So I
Oh.
don't have to. So if I feel indifferent about a piece of clothing, then I know it's not for me. I have to
Mm,
absolutely love it. To say, I love this dress.
yeah.
I love the shirt. If I don't love it, then it's an immediate no.
Mm. I feel like you've just expressed something too that um, maybe, perhaps, I'm thinking for myself anyway, that we may not allow ourselves or to have these conversations within ourselves to really ask, do I love it? Because sometimes we're so practical, and whether this is we're talking about um, how we do art, how we write, how we move, how we dress, how we express in any way, we can be so practical and just be like, well, it's in my closet, so I should wear it. Mm. What you're describing is a whole different way of being, doing, connecting, living, expressing, and I love it.
Mm. It's also a way to filter and let go of things that no longer serve you.
Yeah.
So maybe you would have loved it in a previous season, but it no longer fits with who you are in this moment. And so that gets to be a cue for letting go of that item, the
Mm.
item, way of being, way of thinking.
Yeah. Yes. Just like nature, it displays this so um perfectly. That again, there's these heavy kind of shoulds. I feel like, that oh, I should be practical. I should be here it is. And then there can be a guilt tied to it. Now, does nature do that? I'm thinking of a tree in particular. It grows a leaf when it's time. It trusts the color that the leaf is. When it's time to let go of that leaf, it lets go. And it just feels like in our human experience, I'm sure based on lots of different, um, past history, we have not fully let ourselves flow in that way.
Mm, absolutely. And I think what you are also alluding to or even naming is how using color work and our clothes is a gateway to other areas in our lives. So, by giving yourself permission to wear clothes that feel good and wear colors that are more aligned and, harmonize with you as a person, it also takes you on a journey to ask yourselves or to give yourself permission in other areas of your life to be who you are,
Mm.
and also to let go of those things that no longer fit you or serve you.
Beautifully said. Can you describe a way that that has happened for you as a gateway?
Um, as a gateway, well, I think the earlier things we had mentioned around permission. So the practical example is the permission to wear pink. Um, and how I've really extended that in my own life is in all the areas where I was limiting myself, perhaps maybe limiting my joy because I thought, oh no, do I get to have that? Do I get to experience that? But I've watched just like having this gateway of being able to wear pink, which is my favorite color. I've gone on to ask myself, what else do I want? Where else could I give myself more permission?
Mm.
Where else can I introduce more joy?
Yes.
And what we had started talking about earlier before we started recording was I shared this story about um, my my limited my limiting beliefs around creativity and what it means to be creative. And being wrapped up in a story before of just not being an artist, and how using color has really helped me give myself permission to express myself in a more creative way. I had this funny story where I was at work this week and walked in and someone had a tie-dye kit I got so excited and I got really lit up because I love tie-dye. And I noticed myself being like really excited with tie-dye, saying, I love tie-dye. And then I went to tell them this whole story about this amazing tablecloth that I'd made using tie-dye and how much I loved it. And I don't know where it went. And it was this whole conversation that would never have happened without the cue of tie-dye. And it also inspired me to think, oh, I actually need to go back and do more tie-dyeing because it's something that brings me joy. I can express my creativity. And, it also is something that I do enjoy.
Mm, mm. Uh, You know, what a great cue. It feels like something you've also developed is observing yourself, and when something lights you up and following that, when something harmonizes and following that. The and this I'm seeing this triangle in my mind between creativity, joy, and permission. Like they're they're related. They circulate energy. Um, and I know another way, speaking of circulating energy, I know another way that you really express is through movement and how creative that can be. And I haven't talked about this much in my podcast, but the the creativity of movement, moving creatively, and the joy involved in that. I'm just thinking, okay, we just opened this door. Where do we go next with this? Because it's there. I know there's so much here.
Well, I love that you just mentioned this triad, which is absolutely true. It's joy, creativity, and permission, and they all feed on each other. So if you give yourself permission to be more creative, you then become more joyful, which then means that you give yourself more permission to become more creative and vice versa.
Yes.
Um, and it works the same way with movement. Um, if you give yourself permission to move in a creative way, that generates more joy, which then gives you more permission to, and so it goes. I absolutely love movement and have found my permission. I used to absolutely hate moving, especially in front of people.
Mhm.
Being wrapped up in a story of I really can't dance. Which is very interesting because throughout all my life I have been a professional dancer. I've done, ballet and Latin American and ballroom dancing and even some pole dancing. And yet I had the story of not being able to dance, and that really limited my movement. And I have just been working with moving meditation for the last few years, which has really increased the permission in my life, which has allowed me to be more creative in my movement and has generated more joy, which has led me to give myself more permission. And it's really amazing. It also allows you, so in a way, both working with color and working with movement have both avenues have allowed me to heal my story of my limiting beliefs around not being creative and not being a good dancer.
So I'm feeling like, and so I'll pose this question to you. I'm feeling like in that, as you began to work with color, as you began to um, move in ways that really nourished you, um, when you recognize that you were able to start shifting the story, I almost feel like words wouldn't be needed. Like instead of like, well, I'm going to reshape this story or this belief because this was my belief and I'm going to put it into this belief. That just by living it, engaging with color, engaging with movement in a different way, do you feel like it just kind of gave permission to heal, to shift, to transform your story without even putting it into words? I don't know. Tell me your experience.
Oh, absolutely. It is the rewiring through doing rather than
Mm,
rewiring through talking. So it becomes an embodied sense. And so the repetition of, so you give yourself permission. So you step out, it's like sticking your toe in the water to feel the temperature. And then, you do the action. So you do something creative or you move your body. And then, oh, you have a feeling of joy and contentment. And so then you keep doing more of that. And that sense of repetition is then what creates the motion or the action of the rewriting of the story
mm,
because you are giving yourself a different experience to the one you've had before.
yes. Wow. You really captured it there. Can you express how some of the ways that your life feels different after you have been, you know, shifting in how you use color, shifting how you relate to movement?
Life feels very easy,
Mm,
feels easeful. It feels like I am not resisting myself. So it feels very much that I am going and moving in the flow of my life, not against the flow of my life.
mhm.
It also feels like I expend less energy because I'm not resistant. I'm not resisting. I am just flowing. I also experience life to be more expansive. I get to experience more. Also, life feels more free and it definitely feels a lot more joyful.
Wow. Wow. All of that, so I could viscerally, tangibly, as you were expressing that, I could feel it. And the sensation I had was, I think that's what we're all after. You know, more flow, more freedom, more harmony, more like whatever the real me is. Um, how lovely that you have not only experienced this to be so, but that you have observed it. You can tune in, tune in and know when there is alignment there and when there is not. And then I'm just guessing, like one of the outcomes with all of this is that there is healing on many levels. There is health on many levels, whatever well-being, wellness. You also said like fullness, there's a and contentment and aliveness, like the chi is flowing. The life force is there, undeniably there. And so have you found too, when you walk into situations, so I'm thinking like you expressed, there are situations that we are in that may seem contrary to our colorfulness. to our pink as we walk in, or to our embodied, you know, way of being. And so, um, are you, a couple different questions are like fighting for attention in my head at once if you're feeling this pause that I'm having. Um, okay, so you definitely are, my friend. You are an embodied expression of this this wellness, this creativity, this joy, this permission. And when you are in these situations that feel contrary to the essence that you want to express, more and more do you just find yourself unable to conform? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
And the desire to conform is there, like I mentioned earlier. I work in higher education. Um, it's within a policy environment, and in some ways you do conform, but the real you is always going to shine through. And there is still that pull towards wanting to conform, but through the repeating or repetitive nature of the embodying, it's even though you might feel the pull towards conformity, you are unable to because you have been practicing a different way of being. And so even though the pull will remain, the pull towards permission is stronger.
Mm, thank goodness. Yeah. I would just invite people, if you want to do any journaling on this or movement to this, on these topics, is there a color? Is there a color you're drawn to? Like, for instance, the pink. And what does that mean to you? And how does it feel to express that? And where are you allowing and disallowing yourself that permission? And then same way with movement. Um, where do you feel your life force flowing through you in any kind of movement that you do? And are you allowing it and or disallowing it in different environments? Um, do you have any thoughts or questions that you would uh, that have helped you ponder or that are coming up for you that might be fun for people to play with?
I think one is um what what is one thing I can give myself permission to do today that will fill my life with more joy?
Yeah. I want to put that at the top of my journal. I want to put that at the front of my journal so that I see that every day. And um, then sort of like filter through. What a beautiful filter. My friend, this conversation has been so alive, so life-giving, so colorful, so refreshing. Um, I just thank you so much. And is there anything else as we kind of wrap this all up here? Anything else that just feels present for you that you want to express?
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast and just for the opportunity to have this beautiful conversation and just share the space with you and your listeners.
Mm. Thank you for your inspiration. Um, Thank you for your color in the world. I was just thinking of like how in a sidewalk. So the sidewalk can be just all gray, just the cement. And then there's a seed that gets, there's a little crack there. And the seed shows up and suddenly there's this life that's alive in this landscape that might not look like it could sustain that. And yet there it is. And that is, I feel like that is what you have expressed so beautifully in this conversation, the permission, the joy, the creativity to be that spark, be that color, be that movement, um, particularly in a situation where it may feel like it hasn't happened before, but also on a daily basis that I feel like that is part of what you are giving us permission for. So thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah.